Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. In today's video, we're going to go ahead and do our Sunday technical analysis, break down the futures, look at the futures contracts on the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the S&P. They just opened about 30 minutes ago, so we'll go ahead and break those down. After that, we'll look at a few stocks, ones that I'm watching into next week for some potential swing trade opportunities. And we're also going to look at some stocks that are sitting at heavy resistance levels so that you guys understand that these stocks can find some really nasty resistance and potentially fall from these levels. As you guys have seen, we've called out a few really good plays in the last few weeks. But at this point, I have to be honest with you, the market has definitely ran a little bit more than I expected. I do anticipate some type of small reversal coming up. We're not going to just go straight up forever, and we have to be careful of taking these swing trades when the market has really extended itself, especially on tech. Last week and the week before were some great entries on some really good tech stocks. At this point, I'm seeing fewer and fewer opportunities out there until we get the next dip. So we have to be realistic. We can't think that there's going to be a move every single day, every single minute. So right now, I'm a little bit hesitant, but I still do see a few good opportunities, and we'll go ahead and break those down today. So guys, before we jump into this one, as always, smash that like button for me, subscribe to the channel for some future videos, and press that bell notification so you know every single time that I post on the channel. So if you've been watching the channel, then you're probably aware that we called out Home Depot. That's 1,000% gainer right now. We called out Square last week. Right now, that contract that I called out is up 1,000%. And this Twitter trade that I'm still currently in is up about 100%. So we definitely had some really good calls here on the channel. Congratulations to anyone that actually watches these videos and enjoys these videos and maybe take some of these opportunities. Now, of course, I'm definitely going to be looking for that next 100, 1,000% opportunity. But always, we have to be realistic. There's going to be a loss coming up. We can't just continue to get winners and winners. Of course, I would love that. And of course, I'm aiming to have that. But I have to be realistic. So I'm definitely a little bit nervous this coming week because I definitely do see a lot of overextended stocks, a lot of overextended moves on the NASDAQ, on the Dow, on the S&P. So we're going to go ahead and break those down today. Maybe next week is a little bit of a dip, which I would definitely not mind. That just sets us up for some more opportunities in the following weeks. If we fall to some important moving averages, to important support levels, then we can take those opportunities looking for support bounces off those levels. That's the most important. Taking plays at all-time highs is really not the style that I like to chase. So let's go ahead, dive into the NASDAQ, dive into the futures, and then get into some stocks that I'm watching into next week. All right, so the first thing we're looking at is the NASDAQ on the daily chart. Now, if you've been watching the channel, you know that we have been watching this 100-day moving average hold extremely closely, and we got a beautiful move off of it and a beautiful move off this upward trending channel. So we have this uptrend right here, which we bounced off of. Once again, we held that uptrend, and that uptrend met the 100-day moving average extremely nicely, and we got a really strong move off of it. We were watching this resistance level to see if the NASDAQ would fail it. One day, it sort of stuck around that level, but the next day right here on the 5th of April, we got a huge move past that resistance level, and clearly we are now over it. The next resistance level we were watching was this 13,600. The NASDAQ stuck around that level for about 2 to 3 days. You definitely saw on the daily chart, on like the 1 or 5 minute if you were watching it, how it was sort of struggling around that level. Ultimately, on the 8th and 9th of April, we got that move past that resistance, and that resistance is because of this previous level back here on the 27th of January. So we had this resistance, which carried over here, and now we pushed through it, and now really the NASDAQ is pushing all-time highs. We have the top of this candle here, right around 13,800. We're sort of sitting at it right now, Friday close. So we're sitting at a very, very crucial level here on the NASDAQ. Do I think we can break right through all-time highs? Of course, that is very possible. If tech continues to heat up, we could get a push through that all-time high. We see the Dow, we see the S&P hitting all-time highs almost every day. So maybe we see that on the NASDAQ as well. But what I really want to see for my trading style and for some swing trade opportunities is a pullback down to this trend line. If we can get a pullback down to this trend line, back down and test this 13,300 resistance, if we can pull back to it right here, let's say over the next few days we get a pullback down to this 13,300 on this trend line, let's say right around here, then maybe we can see a push back towards those highs. If we get this pullback to around 13,300, 13,400 on the NASDAQ, then that will be our point to look for some really strong swing trade opportunities on some tech stocks. Let's see what happens. We're sitting at a very crucial resistance level, all-time high resistance on the NASDAQ. So we're going to have to just be patient and see what occurs here. This is why I'm a little bit hesitant of opening new swing trades on tech stocks that have moved really strong with the NASDAQ, because we do not know what happens here at all-time highs. If the NASDAQ falls, you bet that Apple, Amazon, Facebook, PayPal, Square, all of your favorite tech stocks are going to dip with the NASDAQ. It's not going to outperform. Those stocks are going to move with the NASDAQ here. So if we get a pullback like we might see at all-time highs, you definitely want to expect pullbacks on some of these tech stocks. So that's my look for NASDAQ. Just know that we're at all-time highs, basically sitting at that level, and we have to see what happens on Monday. If we get resistance, maybe expect a pullback down to some support levels. So for the Dow and the S&P, it's going to be very brief here. Really, all I really want to see is a pullback to the 20-day moving average. Every time we've bounced off the 20-day, we've gotten a really strong move. Right now, we are well overextended over the 20-day moving average on the Dow, just about 2% over the 20-day moving average. I want to see a pullback. I'm very hesitant of taking trades here at all-time highs. It's not really my style, like I've already said. Of course, if I see some stocks that are underperforming and I think will move up with the Dow, which I actually have one in this video, so stay tuned for that, I think we might be able to get some moves, but really right now, I want to see a pullback to the 20-day. That would be ideal. You can see in the past, we really trended on that 20-day. When we got overextended, so let's say, for example, right here, let's say, for example, right here, another one right here. Every time we got extended there, we pulled back to the 20. I'm thinking that we are starting to hit another extended level, and a pullback will definitely be needed, but of course will definitely be healthy as well. So let's keep an eye out that. That's really all I'm looking at on the Dow. And on the S&P, we're looking very similar. So a pretty strong move over the 20-day. We're just about 3.5% over the 20-day moving average on the S&P. So I would love to see a pullback. Maybe we try to retest this support right here, back down to around 3,900, or even we can maybe find support at that even $4,000 level. So maybe we try to back test this $4,000 level, get support at the 20-day moving average, and then get some nice support bounces. But as of course, right now, you guys can see that we are definitely extended here. Over the last 2 weeks, we've done nothing but go up. Of course, it's great for my long-term portfolio. It's great for some of the plays that I've made in the last few weeks. But right now, we have to be aware that we're definitely overextended. This could age badly. We can continue to run up like crazy. And I'll definitely get opportunities if that continues to happen. But right now, I'm being a little bit hesitant. I'm being a little bit cautious. And I think coming into next week, being a little bit cautious is not going to burn you. And I think it's the right play coming into next week. If next week proves to be another crazy strong week, then we can definitely jump on some opportunities and try to take advantage of it. But Dow, S&P, very overextended in my personal opinion. The NASDAQ sitting at that strong resistance level. It should be a very exciting week to see where these futures go. All right, guys, so the number one stock that I'm looking at is SFIX. You may have seen this in my last video. If you didn't watch it all the way through, then you probably missed this. But SFIX is a play that I'm currently in. I have a call option looking for a move off of this $50 support. So we had a big gap up here back in December when we basically just moved up off of it, had some crazy movements here. But over the last few months, we have pulled back over, I want to say this is almost 50%. So we pulled back at the lows 60%, and right now we're sitting at just around 53%. So a massive pullback here on SFIX. We held really nicely at this $50 support, right where this gap up started. So you can see I drew a demand zone here where I think we will find support. Right now, we are holding this uptrend, and we are also holding this 20-day moving average. If we can hold above this 20-day moving average, I'm definitely expecting a move higher, maybe to 55. That will be my first price target on the call that I currently have. 55 is where we had this previous resistance right here. So I'm looking to see if we can get to that 55 level, take some profits, and if we can break through, move a little bit higher. The next price target is 60, and that is because we have that resistance right here at 60. Next is right at these lows around $69, $70 a share. So I like the 60% sell-off here on SFIX. I like this really strong $50 demand zone that we're holding right now, and I want to see if we can hold the 20-day. If we can, I definitely can see some upward movement here. My stop loss on this particular trade is if Stitch Fix breaks below the 20-day, breaks this uptrend, then I'll go ahead and take my loss on this play. It's very small, so we'll definitely see what happens. Stitch Fix is my #1 watch coming into next week. One thing I do want to note about Stitch Fix is it's a very volatile stock. So there's going to be days where there's going to be some wild swings. There's very low liquidity, so you can probably tell if you watch the 1 minute or 5 minute chart. It's a little bit jumpy. So if you're in a swing trade on this play, you really just have to be hands off, not get sort of pulled into the 1 day or the 1 minute movements, and just let the trend ride out. So I'm not really watching this day to day. I'm not watching this on the 1 minute chart because of how volatile it is. But on the daily chart, I still really like this uptrend, so you will see what happens. All right, guys, so the second play I'm watching, which I actually really like coming into next week, is Caterpillar. Caterpillar is sitting close to all-time highs, which is right around 237. We definitely have some resistance here. You can tell by these wicks. So you see this wick here, and this wick right here. They're all pushed down to the downside. That shows that there's a lot of sellers up at those levels. But what I really like is you can see how strong the Dow has been, pushing all-time highs, and CAT has been sort of lagging that move. Caterpillar is a big part of the Dow, moves with the Dow, and right now it is lagging that strong move on the Dow Industrial Average. I like where we pulled back to, right at the 20-day moving average. You can see that the last 2 times we pulled back to the 20, we found some really strong support. All right here, we held the 20. Right here on this this was sort of that market panic. We pulled back to the 50. But overall, the last few months, we have pulled back to the 20 and found really nice support. I have a call option here on Caterpillar as well. You guys can see that if you're part of the Discord. I alerted that live. So we will see if it can bounce off this 20-day. If the Dow pushes stronger next week, if maybe there's some tech weakness and some rotation into those Dow stocks, Caterpillar should be one that really holds up. I like this 20-day moving average hold, and I really like the price action on Friday. So what you can see is right at this 20-day where you guys see this circle, the 20-day is right around here at these lows. So we bounced off that 20-day intraday and had a really strong move on Friday, closing extremely strong into market close. One of the levels that I have been watching, I'll go over to the 20-day 1 hour, and you'll see how we had some really strong support here right around this 228, 227 level. So we bounced off it multiple times. So right here on Thursday, and again on Friday. So if we can hold above this 228, actually happened here again this is on the 29th of March. So 228 on this hourly chart is extremely strong. If we can hold above that, which is the 20-day moving average, I think CAT can move higher up around this 238 level up to all-time high. So let's go ahead and see what happens. I have CAT right now. I'm looking for Dow strength, and I'm looking for us to hold this 20-day moving average coming into Monday. All right, so the third stock is one that we talked about last week. Maybe you guys took this opportunity. I know a lot of people in the Discord chat did, because we were watching the 255 level on PayPal. It was right around 255 where we had previous resistance over here, back here in this is back in January, 255 resistance, right also by the 50-day moving average. We broke through it, and now we're about 10 points above that 255 crucial level. I do still see upside here on PayPal. We broke out of this downtrend. We're still holding this 255 level, so I do still see some bullishness here on PayPal if tech can hold up. Now, of course, if tech finds some weakness next week, I would love to see a pullback back to 255. If we can get that pullback and find support off that 255, this would be the entry that I would love to grab. At this point, I'm not too eager to grab this PayPal trade because we've already moved past that 255, and that was sort of the level I was watching. So I did unfortunately miss this trade myself, but I think I want to see a pullback to 255 and a support bounce off of it. If we don't get that pullback, then I would definitely expect some resistance around 275 here, where this previous resistance was put in on the beginning of March. So PayPal's a really good trade, a really good stock that I'm watching here. It's been extremely strong. It's sold off quite a bit from the highs, almost, it's about 25% from the highs. PayPal, a stock that's fantastic, a company that's fantastic, pulling back 25% is a great opportunity in my books any time of the day. So you have a 25% pullback, holding the 100-day beautifully, and we got that really strong 255 breakout. Let's see what happens. We're sort of in no man's land here. We're either going to push up to this 275, or if tech gets weak, we're going to pull back to this 255, and that would be a support bounce that I would love to grab right here at 255. So another one that I'm definitely watching into next week. All right, guys, so number 4, before we get into those stocks that I'm looking that are at really strong resistance levels, is Apple. We called out Apple really well here on the channel as well as in the Discord chat. We were eyeing this 127.50 level. If we could break out of that level, which had a lot of previous resistance right here and also right here, then I thought we would see a nice move. Of course, the NASDAQ has really helped Apple here, and we got a straight up move past that 127.50. The reason I've been watching Apple for so long is because of this pullback and because of this beautiful hold of this trend line. All of this choppiness here in the beginning or the middle of March was just a bunch of people buying in, a bunch of support buying, holding this trend line, a little bit of choppiness. But of course, at the end of the day, this is Apple. There's real opportunity here in this stock for the future of this company. And buying it down here at this trend line hold was a beautiful opportunity. Now that we move past this 127.50, I'm a little bit more weary of where we are right now. We're a little bit in no man's land, just like we are on PayPal. And looking at this stock, looking at this chart, it doesn't scream a buying opportunity to me. Of course, stocks, always good to buy Apple stock, and dollar cost averaging into this stock has been always a great opportunity. But right now, buying a call option here in the middle of these two support and resistance zones is a little bit difficult in my opinion. But if the NASDAQ continues to push next week through all-time highs, I don't see why Apple does not push easily to this 137, 138 level, this previous resistance. You can see multiple times we had resistance here at 138. So if we get a really strong move in the NASDAQ, I think the next bus stop here on Apple is 138 extremely quickly. Let's keep an eye out on this. This is another stock that I would love to see pull back to this 127.50 if we get some NASDAQ weakness and buy a nice support bounce up to 138. That would be ideally what I'd be looking for. I love to see these breakthroughs of resistance, pull back to it, act as support, buy the call option, and use that bounce, use that momentum up to new highs. Let's see what happens. Apple is another one that you definitely want to watch next week. So guys, I have two stocks that are sitting at extremely strong resistance levels that I think you need to be aware of coming into next week. Number one is Netflix. We called this out. I don't know if it was in a video, but we've been calling this out in the Discord chat. We were watching this very similar play here on this downtrend, on this breakout, very similar to the Square trade if you guys have been sort of following along this channel. You know that we broke the downtrend on Square, we held a really strong support level, and we got a breakthrough of that downtrend. Here is a very similar setup on Netflix. We broke that downtrend, we moved higher, but right now, I would not be a buyer of Netflix. I could be totally wrong, but I do want to trust this supply zone. You can see we have extreme supply here on Netflix multiple times around 257, 258. Right here, we have it right here, we have it right here. That's 3 times, and all of this chop right here, that looks like an extremely heavy resistance level that I do not want to be playing around with. You definitely could get lucky. You can have this move through to 560 up to 593 all-time highs. Very possible, but at this point, you need to be aware of this resistance level if you're in a Netflix play. You know, consider taking some profits here. If you're up 100% and you have 2 contracts, take one off, let the next one ride and see what happens. But the likelihood that we find resistance here, I think, is extremely high, and maybe we can see a pullback down to some previous support levels. Netflix is one to be aware of. I'm not going to be playing it bearish because I think the market is still in a very bullish situation. So I don't want to be playing puts when the market is in a really strong uptrend. But right here, 557, 560 looks extremely heavy. Looks like a lot of supply, and I don't want to be messing around with it with bullish trades. All right, last but not least is Square, which is one that I'm extremely bullish on, but I do need to take a step back and understand that we are hitting some important resistance levels. You guys know, if you're watching this channel, we called this Square breakout perfectly. We got in around 210, 211. We got in right here on this day. This is the 30th of March, and we got a beautiful move here. The contracts are up 1,000% right now. But this resistance around 260 is still pretty strong, I believe, and we have the top of this gap up around 267, and I expect there to be a lot of supply in this area. If we get weakness on the NASDAQ into next week, this is a #1 candidate that I think could find some weakness into next week. We have a lot of room to the downside. We just moved over 30% on Square in a little bit less than 14 days. A huge move on Square. If you took advantage of it to the upside, congratulations. That's a beautiful trade, but do not get greedy here. You just caught a 30% move on a stock like Square, and you're hitting some important resistance levels, a lot of supply up here near all-time highs. Yes, there could be a few more points that you could squeeze out, but please understand that you are coming up to a really strong resistance level up here around 260 to around 270. That zone there looks a little bit strong, and it's not somewhere that I would want to be buying bullish trades. If we get a pullback to some support levels, maybe 250, 240, then we can get a support bounce. That would be my entry. But I was once very bullish on Square, and I took advantage of it. Right now, I'm a little bit more hesitant, looking to see if we can find resistance here around 260 to 270. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Watching some stocks into next week, but as you can probably tell from the tone of my video, I'm a little bit less bullish into next week. Now, this could be a totally wrong call, and of course, that's why none of us truly know what's going to happen in the market. We can use technical analysis, we can take educated guesses, calculated risks, using previous levels of support, using previous levels of resistance, but anyone out there that's telling you they know exactly what's going to happen next week is just complete BS. So we have to use technicals, and right now it's clear to me, and I think it's clear to a lot of people, that we definitely moved very strong off of some important support levels, a huge move on tech, a huge move across the market, sitting at all-time highs on the Dow and the S&P, very close to all-time highs on the NASDAQ, and a lot of stocks moved with it, like Square, over 30% in the last 2 weeks. So we have to be aware of that. We have to make sure we're thinking about that while we're trading the market. We can't just totally ignore it and think that the stock's just going to continue to go up. So as you can tell, we have a few plays that I'm watching, a few bullish plays, but of course, I'm looking at both sides and keeping an open mind. So Caterpillar and Stitch Fix are the two that I'm definitely watching next week. Those are my two very bullish calls. Let's see what happens into next week. Make sure to watch them with me. If you want to trade live with me every day, check out the first link in the description below. That is my Discord chat. I post all of my trades there, and I trade live with the group every day. If you want to get these trades in your inbox, check out the Options Insider newsletter. It's $5 a month, and you get these plays sent to your email every day, along with a market recap, some news that you should be watching, and some unusual options activity. Of course, it's free to follow my Instagram, the Options Insider Instagram, down below as well. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Hope you had a great weekend, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.